Hey guys, welcome back to my streaming tips for beginners series, where I give you guys a little bit of advice about how to get started streaming, what kind of hardware I would recommend when you start streaming. Hopefully these tips can get you started off on the right foot with the right stuff. Hey guys, sorry to briefly interrupt. I just wanted to say that if you're watching the video, you're most likely not yet subscribed. We're really pushing for that 1,000 subscribers, so I've added an incentive. If we can hit 1,000 subs, I will do a Just Dance video wearing this. Enjoy the rest of the video. Thank you for watching. Today is a big one. We're going to be talking about webcams. And why are webcams important, you probably ask. Some of you guys probably think that webcams aren't important. There are lots of streamers who stream to large audiences without a webcam. They just, like Lyric, for instance, Admiral Bauru, they stream to thousands of people without a webcam. So why do I think a webcam is important? I kind of covered this in my last video where we talked about why you should stream from a PC and not directly from a console. And I think that a webcam is important because it impacts your first impression. Now, because Twitch is such a saturated landscape, there's thousands of streamers that are live all the time, every single minute of every day. It's important that you put forward a first impression, and hopefully a good first impression, or at least an impression that gives the people an idea of who you are right off the bat. Because let's face it, a lot of times when we're scrolling through the directory, some of us don't even scroll through the directory, but when we're scrolling through the directory, we click on somebody, and it could only be a few seconds before we click off. And in those few seconds, we need to learn something about the streamer that engages us and wants us to stay, wants us to stick around. I just feel like a webcam gives people an opportunity to get their first impression straight from you, straight from your face. I also think it's a more personal way to interact with your viewer, is if they can actually see you, if they can see your face, if you can look into a camera and talk to them directly. I feel like it feels like you're having a much more personal conversation with that person instead of kind of talking to a voice. All right, so now that we've established why I think webcams are important, I want to go through my personal history with all the cameras that I've used on my stream, my struggles that I've had with them, and what I think are good about them, and what I would recommend for a streamer just getting started at a decent price point. All right, when I started streaming, there was a very popular webcam at the time that basically everyone used and everyone recommended. And I think it's even still today the one that's always recommended for the price which is listed. It's the Logitech C920. Now, I actually still use a Logitech C920 as my second camera, or my cat camera whenever I use a cat cam. I really like the Logitech C920. It's small, it's compact, it's easy to use. You just plug it in, you add it as a scene in OBS, and you're ready to go. And it's got quite a few customization options, which you're able to kind of make things a bit more manual. So if you're using something like your green screen, for instance, you can keep your color, your lighting, and your scene consistent so that your green screen always looks sharp. Out of the cameras I'll be talking about today, this one is the least good in terms of the image quality, but for a starting webcam and when you're first starting out, you can make this thing look pretty damn good with the right lighting and the right filters in OBS. The Logitech C920 goes for $79.99. You can buy it straight off their website. There was actually a shortage of these because it's probably the best quality for the amount of money you spend on it for a webcam. And when everyone was going to like Zoom calls and everything with the virus, these were like hotcakes. Everyone wanted one because they were the cheapest but most efficient option. All right, so the second webcam that I used and I upgraded to from the Logitech C920 was the Logitech Brio. Now, I no longer own the Logitech Brio, and there's different reasons for that. The Logitech Brio is $199.99. The one thing about the Brio is it's 4K. So right now, Twitch doesn't allow for 4K streaming, but the moment it does, I can definitely see the Brio becoming one of the most popular options for streamers on the platform. The Brio had a fantastic image quality. The problem I ran into with the Brio was at the time I was also experimenting with a green screen. Now, lots of people use green screens on Twitch. They think it's a good way to kind of eliminate the background. You take up less space on the screen, which allows for better viewing of your content. And with the Logitech Brio, there's a very specific thing in the Logitech Brio that makes it so that using a green screen with a Brio is much more difficult. And that's the fact that, at least when I owned the Brio, you could not put in a manual white balance setting without the frame rate going absolutely to slideshow level. So the white balance was always a variable white balance. It was always an automatic. It was always adjusting based on what you were wearing, where you moved to. It was always adjusting levels up and down. So you can imagine a green screen behind you. It's going to constantly adjust the level of green, which makes it so that the keying of the specific green behind you is constantly changing. So the green screen is always going to kind of flow in back and forth. And unfortunately, the Brio at the time that I owned it didn't have the ability to put in a manual just one white balance setting. So it kind of rendered it useless when I was using it for a green screen. Now, if you're not using it for a green screen, the image quality is fantastic. It's probably the best image quality you can get for around 200 bucks. And the fact that it has 4K at that price is pretty damn awesome too. So if you're committed to not using a green screen, you have a nice like stream room, or you want to show some stuff off like my Yoda back there, then a Brio might be just what you need to not go all the way to a DSLR level of price, but still get kind of that DSLR quality picture. Okay, so the third camera that I decided to use, I decided to upgrade from the Brio to a DSLR, or it's basically what you would consider a professional camera with adjustable lenses. You can pop them off, switch different lens on, and the camera that I found was the Sony A5100. Now, the Sony A5100 is about $400. You can get it used, open box on eBay and stuff. But I ran into some problems with the Sony A5100, which is why I ended up upgrading it in the future. The Sony A5100 is great for vlogging because it has a preview window that actually flips up, and you're able to kind of, use it as a webcam. You're able to see yourself in the camera when you look over and be like, okay, well that still looks good, or it's frozen, or whatever. You could tell just by looking at it. So that was one thing that's really nice, especially for vlogging, if you want to do anything like that. It's also very small. It's very compact. It's very small. It was really nice and light. And for the picture quality and the video quality you got out of it, for it being so small, so compact, so easy to walk around with, and the vlogging quality of that preview window, it was a pretty damn cool camera. But there was one major flaw with it. That major flaw was apparently, in a lot of Sony cameras specifically, the camera overheats after about 10 minutes of shooting video. The battery in the camera actually overheats. So when I started shooting more video, I ran into an issue of, well, this camera overheats every 10 minutes. So I had to actually buy multiple batteries, and then I was swapping batteries out every 10 minutes to try and shoot videos. Obviously that wasn't good. So the next camera I'm gonna be talking about is the Canon EOS 250D or SL3. This is the camera that I'm currently using, and I love it. There's a few reasons why I chose this camera. I chose this camera because it records in 4K, and at the time of which I bought this camera, I knew I was gonna be shooting more video kind of outside. I was gonna go on kind of like photo safaris, go hiking and things, and I wanted to get into photography and actually take good pictures and stuff, and that's where the amount of customization options in an actual DSLR camera comes into play. All the different settings and lenses and filters that you can get into, you can really dive deep into the realm of photography if you have a camera like this, and that was really what I was hoping for. So not only did it kind of fill in for a webcam for me, a really nice webcam, but it also, I wanted to make it into a hobby, maybe even a side gig someday. So it was important for me to get something that was kind of on the pricey side, but also in terms of quality was a pretty damn good camera. Right now, I'm super happy with this camera. It was about $650. This camera obviously has the best picture quality out of all of the cameras or webcams that I've used, but honestly, I would kind of expect that if you're gonna spend 650 bucks on a DSLR and connect it the way it is and be able to stream in 4K and shit, I would expect that to have the best picture of them all. But interestingly enough, I want to do a quick comparison of the Canon 250D SL3 and the Logitech C920, just to show you guys that honestly, when you're first starting out, the Logitech C920 is not a bad idea. So the test I'm gonna be doing is no OBS filters, just basically straight out of the box, plugging in the C920 and plugging in the SL3 or the 250D. And then after that, obviously I can show you what the filters in OBS can do when you really start to boost some of the color correction properties, especially on the 250D. So as you guys can probably tell, this is the 250D without any color correction filters. It's just basically straight out of the box, plugged in with a Camlink 4K, and this is what you get. It's pretty washed out. It feels a little washed out to me, but it's still sharp. Like, the quality of the camera is still sharp. It's very detailed. It looks really nice. Now, if we hide this camera and we show the C920, which I have almost in the same location, they're about 6 inches apart. The C920 is like this. Now, obviously at the full screen resolution, the video looks a little bit fuzzy, but it's not really gonna look that bad when you size it down to what your cam's actually gonna be 90% of the time when you're streaming a video game. Now, if we go back to the SL3 or the 250D, this is what it looks like. And then typically I would have what are called filters in OBS, and there is a filter, hold on, I can't see it. There is a filter for color correction, and you're able to change the color to make it look a bit more realistic like. But the color correction properties can make the C920 look very, very good. And even the C920 customization options that come with the webcam can make it look very good too. All right, well, as you guys can see, the Logitech C920 is not anything to scoff at. And when you're first getting started, honestly, you don't want to put that much money into this, because most likely you're not going to be making money streaming for quite a while after you start. So the less money you can put in and get the most out of at the beginning is the best way for you to move forward, especially at the start. So as far as recommendation goes, I'm sure you guys have figured out already what I would recommend a starting streamer to go to. I would definitely recommend you start with the C920, a Logitech C920 for $79.99. I think it's the best webcam to start with, and I think that honestly a lot of my upgrades were not necessarily because I thought I needed to upgrade, but more because I thought an upgrade would somehow bring in more people, like, oh, look at that camera quality. But at the end of the day, I think honestly people are looking more at the gameplay than they are at you, and your camera box is this small, so having a C920 or something of the like is not really going to be that bad. And like I said, you can go into the different customization options in the C920, and also the filters in OBS. You can crank those in different directions until you find the perfect sweet spot that makes your C920 look awesome. All right, guys, that's it for me. I hope you guys learned a little bit about your different webcam options. Hopefully I was able to give you an idea of what you should look at getting started. I don't have any experience with webcams that are less than $79.99 or the C920, but if anyone has any experience with any cheaper webcams that they thought were really good quality that they would recommend, please post in the comments below. If you liked the video, please hit the like and subscribe button and ring that bell for notifications, and we'll see you on the next beginner streaming tips video.